Imagine you just scored a last-minute free kick against Manchester United. The crowd is going wild, your teammates are screaming, and millions of people are watching on TV. Most players would rip their shirt off or slide across the grass. But Michael Olise? He just turned around and walked back to the center circle like he was bored. He didn't smile, he didn't cheer, he just stood there. This is the story of the coldest man in football, a kid who was rejected by the biggest clubs in England, but ended up becoming a superstar that the whole world is fighting over. To understand Michael, we have to go back to where it all started, in Hammersmith, London. He was born on December 12, 2001. Now, Michael's background is like a mini world map. His dad is Nigerian, and his mom is French-Algerian. This meant that when he grew up and became a star, 4 different countries, England, France, Nigeria, and Algeria, would all be begging him to play for them. But back then, he was just a quiet kid with a ball at his feet, living in West London and dreaming of making it pro. Michael didn't just play for one local team. He was so good that the biggest academies in the country wanted him. He spent 7 years at Chelsea, one of the best youth systems in the world. He was there from the age of 7 until he was 14. He was surrounded by talent, but at Chelsea, the competition is brutal. One day you're the star, and the next day you're told you aren't good enough. That's exactly what happened. Chelsea let him go. Most kids would give up after being told no by a club like Chelsea, but Michael didn't. He moved on to Manchester City. He spent a year there, learning from some of the best coaches in the world. But again, it didn't quite work out. He left City and even had a short trial at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Imagine being a teenager and being told by 3 different professional clubs that they didn't want to keep you. It was a huge hardship. He was a player with all the skill in the world, but he couldn't find a home. He was a reject in the eyes of the elite academies. This is where the rising action of his story really begins. Michael had to take a step back to move forward. He signed with Reading, a club in the Championship, which is the 2nd division of English football. It wasn't as flashy as Chelsea or Man City, but it was exactly what he needed. He made his professional debut in 2019 when he was just 17 years old against Leeds United. The Championship is a tough physical league. It's full of grown men who will kick you if you try to show off. But Michael didn't care. He started showing everyone that he was special. In the 2020-2021 season, he truly exploded. He played 44 games for Reading that year. He scored 7 goals and provided 12 assists. Think about that for a second. A teenager was the main playmaker in one of the hardest leagues in the world. He was winning games by himself. By the end of that season, he was named the EFL Young Player of the Season. The reject was now the best young player in the country outside of the Premier League. The climax of Michael's career came when Crystal Palace realized he was too good for the 2nd division. They paid about £8 million to bring him back to London in 2021. This was his big chance to prove Chelsea and Man City wrong. He was finally in the Premier League. But it wasn't easy. He had to deal with injuries that kept him off the pitch. People wondered if he could handle the speed of the top flight. He answered those doubts on the pitch. One of his most iconic moments came in April 2023. Crystal Palace was playing Leeds United away from home. Michael was unstoppable. He provided 3 assists in a single half of football. At 21 years old, he became the youngest player in Premier League history to achieve 3 assists from open play in a single game. He finished that season with 11 assists, becoming the first Crystal Palace player ever to reach double digits for assists in a single Premier League campaign. He wasn't just a good player anymore. He was one of the most dangerous wingers in the world. He had this weird, calm style. He would dribble past 3 defenders, curl the ball into the top corner, and then just walk away like nothing happened. When asked why he doesn't celebrate, his former teammate said he's just different. He doesn't care about the fame or the social media clips. He just wants to play. But then came another hardship. Just as he was becoming a superstar, he suffered a serious hamstring injury while playing for the France under-21 team. He missed the start of the 2023-2024 season. While he was injured, Chelsea, the club that let him go as a kid, came back for him. They tried to trigger a release clause in his contract to sign him. Everyone thought he would go. It would have been the ultimate revenge story. But Michael surprised everyone again. He said no to Chelsea and signed a new contract with Crystal Palace instead. When he finally came back from injury in late 2023, he was even better than before. In the 2023-2024 season, he only played 19 games because of his fitness, but his stats were insane. He scored 10 goals and got 6 assists. That means he was involved in a goal almost every time he stepped on the pitch. He helped Crystal Palace finish the season on a massive winning streak, scoring twice against Manchester United in a 4-0 win that left the world stunned. The falling action of his story takes us to the summer of 2024. Every big club in Europe wanted him. Manchester United, Chelsea again, and Liverpool were all watching. But Michael chose a different path. He decided to leave England and move to Germany to join Bayern Munich, one of the biggest clubs in the history of football. They paid over £50 million for him. He went from being a free agent looking for a club at 14 to being a £50 million man. Before he started at Bayern, he went to the Paris Olympics to play for France. He was the star of the tournament. He led France to the final, scoring 2 goals and providing 5 assists in just 6 games. He helped his country win a silver medal and proved that he belongs on the biggest stage of all. Now we reach the culmination of Michael's journey so far. Today, Olise is a regular starter for Bayern Munich. He's playing in the Champions League, competing for the Bundesliga title, and finally playing for the French senior national team. As of right now, he has played over 160 professional club games, scored over 30 goals, and provided nearly 50 assists. Those are incredible numbers for someone who is still so young. Recently, he was spotlighted for contributing to Bayern's win against Real Madrid. For the past several years, Bayern had faced Real Madrid and constantly failed to reach the quarterfinals. However, this season, Olise ended up contributing to Bayern's attack massively and scored a last-minute goal, securing their place in the quarterfinals. After the match, he got the man of the match, but even then, he was still ice-cold, preparing himself for the quarterfinals and the finals. He is still 24 years old, with the potential to conquer Europe. From an academy reject to the deadliest swinger in Europe, his journey still continues with his nonchalant yet fierce skills. In the 2025 Ballon d'Or ceremony,
Dembele.
with the massive applaud, he steps onto the stage. But instead of the award speech, he starts to shed tears. What would be the story behind his tears? In Dembele's career, there were series of ups and downs and shocking events that would surprise you. Born in May 1997 in Vernon, a town in the Normandy region of France, his world was initially confined to the concrete courtyards of the Les Valmous neighborhood. This was an environment where football was a daily religion, an escape from the socio-economic pressures that weighed heavily on immigrant families. His mother, Fatiwata, who possessed Senegalese and Mauritanian heritage, raised him with a fierce, protective discipline, yet she could never pry the ball away from his feet. By the time he joined the local club ALM Evro at the age of 6, the coaches immediately recognized something entirely abnormal. When a youth coach, Ahmed Wabi, first watched the young boy kicking a ball around the neighborhood, he noticed the boy seemed to possess absolutely no preference for either foot. While most children spend years painstakingly developing their weak foot to a barely possible standard, Ousmane treated both of his feet as entirely equal weapons. Though clubs like Le Havre and Paris Saint-Germain expressed intense interest, the young prodigy ultimately packed his bags at the age of 13 to join the highly prestigious youth academy of Stade Rennais, a decision that would rapidly accelerate his path to global stardom. Making his senior debut during the 2015 to 2016 season, the skinny, incredibly fast teenager completely dismantled the defensive structures of League One. He played with a fearless, arrogant joy, utterly unbothered by the reputations of the veteran defenders tasked with stopping him. The statistics from his debut season remain impressive for a player of his age: 26 league appearances, 12 goals, and 5 assists. Michael Silvestre, the sporting director of Rennes at the time, publicly stated that watching Dembele was like watching a young Cristiano Ronaldo arrive at Manchester United. The combination of raw pace, elite ball striking, and unshakable confidence rightfully earned him the league's Young Player of the Year award. Having completely outgrown his boyhood club in just a single season, the inevitable transfer to a European giant materialized in the summer of 2016. Borussia Dortmund, a club heavily celebrated for its brilliant identification and development of elite young talent, secured his signature. The move to Germany placed him under the intense, deeply analytical head coach Thomas Tuchel. If the streets of Evro gave Dembele his flair and Rennes gave him his confidence, Thomas Tuchel gave him his tactical education. The German manager recognized that trying to confine the young Frenchman to a rigid system would destroy his greatest attributes. Instead, Tuchel built an offensive framework that allowed Dembele the freedom to float across the attacking line, isolating fullbacks in one-on-one scenarios where he was statistically lethal. The results in the Bundesliga were spectacular. Dembele provided a staggering 21 assists across 49 appearances in all competitions, adding 10 goals of his own. He was the undisputed creative engine of the team, forging a deadly connection with striker Aubameyang. He tormented defenses in the Champions League, leaving seasoned veterans twisted and breathless. By the end of his first year in Germany, he had firmly established himself as the most highly coveted young forward on the planet, possessing a ceiling that seemed entirely limitless. However, the footballing world was about to experience a massive financial earthquake, and Dembele would find himself situated directly at the center of attention. In the summer of 2017, Paris Saint-Germain triggered a huge release clause of Brazilian superstar Neymar, stripping Barcelona of their crown jewel and leaving the Catalan giant flush with an unprecedented amount of cash, but utterly desperate for a replacement. Barcelona immediately identified Dembele as the only player in world football with the necessary flair, youth, and potential to fill the massive void left on the left wing. Barcelona signed him in the summer of 2017. Yet, almost from the exact moment he set foot on the grass of Camp Nou, a terrible, agonizing nightmare began to unfold. Dembele arrived in Spain carrying the weight of a monumental transfer fee, the crushing expectation of replacing a global icon, and the physical toll of a completely disrupted preseason. In his very first league start against Getafe, merely days into his Barcelona career, he suffered a catastrophic rupture of his hamstring. This brutal injury completely derailed his adaptation to a highly complex tactical system and set the stage for a tragic cycle of physical breakdowns. For the next 6 years, the narrative surrounding Ousmane Dembele shifted violently from his magical abilities on the pitch to his agonizing fragility off it. The medical reports released by the club became a deeply depressing routine. In 2018, he suffered severe muscle tears. In 2019, he sustained multiple hamstring ruptures and ankle sprains. In 2021, the trauma shifted to his pubic bone and knee ligaments. By 2023, the hamstring issues had returned to haunt him once again. Across a 6-year period during what should have been the absolute prime developmental phase of his athletic career, he suffered over 15 separate injuries, spending roughly 700 days trapped in the rehabilitation room. Reports constantly leaked from the club detailing a player's lack of professionalism. He was frequently late to team meetings and morning training sessions, reportedly staying awake until the early hours of the morning, engaging in intense video game sessions with his friends. His dietary habits were heavily criticized, with rumors circulating of an obsession with fast food that completely undermined his body's ability to recover from elite physical form. Despite the endless controversies and the agonizing stretches on the treatment table, whenever Dembele actually managed to stay fit for consecutive weeks, he delivered terrifying reminders of his absolute genius. To truly appreciate his value, one must delve into his unique biomechanics of his unique play style. Most professional footballers, even the absolute best in the world, have a heavily dominant foot. Defenders are rigorously trained to force an attacker onto their weaker side, narrowing the angles and limiting their options. Defending Dembele is a completely different, entirely terrifying psychological experience because there is no weak side to force him onto. This devastating ability allowed him to maintain a crucial role within the French national team setup, even amidst his domestic struggles. He was selected for the squad that traveled to Russia for the 2018 World Cup, though he was heavily overshadowed by the explosive emergence of Kylian Mbappe and the tactical brilliance of Antoine Griezmann. the 21-year-old Dembele gained invaluable experience and lifted the most prestigious trophy in global sports. Recognizing that his time in Barcelona had reached its natural, exhaustive conclusion, Dembele secured a transfer back to his homeland in the summer of 2023, joining Paris Saint-Germain. Arriving in the French capital, ironically tasked with replacing Neymar for his second time in his career, he fundamentally completely altered his approach to his profession. He underwent a highly specialized, highly successful surgical procedure to permanently resolve the scar tissue in his hamstrings. More importantly, he completely revolutionized his off-pitch habits. He hired personal chefs, completely overhauled his sleep schedule, and embraced the intense ascetic dedication required to maintain an elite athletic physique. Reunited with manager Luis Enrique, who deeply understood his tactical value from their shared connections to the Spanish style of play, Dembele transformed from a fragile, isolated winger into a robust, deeply intelligent creative hub. Dembele brilliantly absorbed the immense offensive responsibility. He began dropping deeper into the midfield, operating frequently as a highly fluid false nine. Instead of merely waiting on the touchline for the ball, he actively dictated the tempo of the game, utilizing his elite vision and two-footed passing to dismantle low defensive blocks. He developed a relentless defensive work rate, constantly pressing opposition center backs and tracking back to support his fullbacks, proving to the world that his mentality had finally caught up to his physical gifts. In 2024-2025 season, his dedication and hard work paid off. In the Champions League, he made 15 appearances, scoring 8 goals and 6 assists. He helped PSG win the Champions League for the first time in the history, which is something that even Zlatan, Neymar, and Mbappe failed to do. Luis Enrique complimented him, saying that his humble attitude as a captain made all the difference in the pitch, allowing his team to press forward with him. In that season, PSG ended up winning the treble, which allowed Dembele to win the mighty Ballon d'Or. During the award ceremony, he soaked in tears and thanked his mother and agent for believing in him and staying with him at difficult times. Dembele's story is a deeply human narrative about the immense, crushing weight of early expectations, the agonizing reality of physical fragility, and the incredible mental fortitude required to completely rebuild a shattered career. He walked through the absolute fires of intense public criticism and relentless physical pain, emerging on the other side not as a fragile piece of glass, but as a hardened, brilliant diamond. From Neymar's replacement to a Ballon d'Or winner, he stands today as a living testament to the power of resilience, remaining the most brilliantly unpredictable, thrillingly chaotic, and perfectly balanced footballer of his generation. If you guys enjoyed this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. It helps me immensely to prepare for the next quality content. Thank you always for your support.
True.